Hey, this is Chuck Marshall with Metal Wani, and I am talking with George Lynch. George, how you doing, man?
Hi, Chuck.
Hey.
I'm doing great.
Awesome. The new KXM album called Circle of Dolls is coming out on September 13th via Rat Pack Records. I loved Scatterbrain, and I think this album is right on par. There's great songs with fantastic performances from you, Ray, and Doug. Where Scatterbrain gave an overall upbeat feel, Circle of Dolls feels a bit more introspective. Songs feel a little more spacious and contemplative. Did you guys feel a different vibe on this album when you went into the studio?
Well, it's definitely got a darker mood to it. I don't know what to attribute that to. Maybe we were depressed. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. Of course, we really have a lot of fun in the studio. I mean, we're always cutting up and stuff and joking around. So that wasn't the case. I think really, quite honestly, without reading too much into it, it's just a crapshoot because we're working so quick.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever comes rolling off the top of our heads at the moment.
Yeah.
And we just go with it. And once we're committed to something, there's really no backing up. I mean, we never have time to go, to sit back and look at the whole body of work and go, we need some more upbeat songs or something.
Right.
We don't have time to do that. It's just kind of things, we start working on something, somebody has an idea in the morning and it develops into a, pretty much complete idea by, hopefully by, later in the day.
Uh-huh.
And then we get all the bells and whistles on it for the rest of the day. So it's not like we can go, this isn't right for the record. This is too somber, or, this record's too dark. And we're not A-Bing it to our old records or anything like that. So
right.
it's just whatever we come up with on the spur of the moment.
Cool. Well, and kind of on the recording process, I know that Ray mentioned in another interview that the band was using the same approach you use on Scatterbrain, where you're not doing any pre-production, you're just kind of going in and recording a song a day. I was wondering, is that approach like just for expediency because of all your guys' schedules, or do you enjoy that immediacy of like capturing the creations as they emerge and not really overthinking it?
Well, just to back up for a second, all 3 records were done like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, no pre-production, no pre-written songs were allowed. But to answer your question, actually both. We are under a time constraint when we do these records.
Yeah.
It's very hard for us to find a 2-week window. And secondly, we do it out of necessity for one, and secondly, we do it because it's a byproduct of having to do the record quickly.
Yeah.
That we had to record that way, but it's also a feature of the band. I mean, it's kind of the defining feature of the band.
Uh-huh.
So, it works on a couple different levels for us.
Nice. And I've read in several interviews with you and Ray and Doug about the chemistry you guys have. And I know you've played with a lot of, amazing musicians, but can you expand a little bit on what that makes that relationship so special between you and Doug and Ray? Well,
you have 3, I would say, somewhat unorthodox musicians that are, Ray is a sort of an ambidextrous, polydextrous, drummer that doesn't play the way drummers play that I'm used to playing with.
Yeah, he's not straightforward.
He doesn't do the Bond thing. I mean, I'm sure he can, but
right.
He does his own thing. He's got a signature style, and he actually writes with the drums, which is something I haven't experienced before really much with drummers, where he will establish the direction of the song with his drums.
Wow. Yeah.
They'll say, well, let's do something in this vein, and then when we start to come up with the riffs, Doug and I, he'll say, okay, but then he'll cut the time signature up.
Oh, wow.
Or just something to break it up so it's less obvious or traditional, make it a little more interesting. So, and then Doug, of course, is his own animal. He, like myself, is pretty much an unschooled player as far as theory, but of course it's in his bones.
Yeah.
And he has a unique sound, and being left-handed and backwards and everything, he gets this whole kind of dyslexic, cool thing that he does. I don't think he even knows what he's doing. But it's so great, it's again unique, and of course his voice,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you've got that. You're going to church with Doug on. He's singing
right.
vocals. I mean, it's Mahalia Jackson.
Yeah.
So, and then I bring what I bring to the table, which is it's hard for me to see what I bring to the table from inside perspective, but I'd like to think I have my own style as well and writing contribution. So that's the chemistry, and we all have tremendous respect for each other, and we've always admired each other's playing, and we also like each other as people, and Ray and Doug are really, really good people. So me, I'm kind of, I'm whatever. But, it's got to be one bad apple in the bud.
Right.
But I'm working on it.
Oh, that's too funny. I've been listening to the album over and over, and I really love there's so much detailed and nuance and richness to each of the songs. And kind of what blows me away is that you guys just started jamming and you create all this music in one day for a particular song. So for example, Mind Swamp, you've got that octave effect on that guitar that's making that riff just sound really vicious. And then, and then the rest of the song unfolds and it's powerful. I was wondering, do you come up with do you have the coloring effects in mind when you're starting to pull that together, or is that stuff that you figure out after the fact?
It's all a reaction.
Okay.
None of it's premeditated at all. Of course not. I mean, from the initial riffs and then a combination of riffs and chords and stuff that we use to build the arrangement to all the embellishments that I'll throw on after, at least from the guitar standpoint. Yeah. I'll do all the coloring and so forth. Tapestry. That's all done as a reaction to what you're listening to. So I'm, let's say listening to the Mutron riff, which is the effect you're referring to is a Mutron octavite. Okay. An old one that I've had since mid '70s when I was a kid. But then we'll listen through, the engineer and I and the rest of the band, and I have an arsenal of different effects and amps and guitars, obviously, and I'm constantly searching for reasons to use them and where to place them. Different paint brushes with do different things, and I'm like, okay, well, what does this need? Maybe it needs an ethereal symphonic reverb. Maybe it needs what if I plug that into the Sustainiac and sustain that reverb through that part? Right. What if I use the whammy pedal? What if I use the octaviter? What if I use a jazz chorus amp? What if I use an old vintage this or that, or a 12-string, or electric 12-string, or baritone? There's all these different things I can do, or different, different ways of playing to sort of, little tapping things or picking things. Anything I can think of to embellish where it's needed, but, not unnecessarily, not embellishment for embellishment's sake, but, as a means to an end. So it's just all a reaction to the music that is being created at the moment.
And are you guys so when you're working on a song like Mind Swamp, are you guys working on is Doug working on the lyrics on his own, or are you guys do you have a sense of what the feel of the song is thematically when you start it, or is that coming as you play it through and put it together?
Mm-hmm. No, it's just it starts with a drum beat or a guitar riff or a bass riff. Okay. And then we've got one thing. And then we all come together with, the parts to flesh out that one thing. Okay, now we've got our foundation for our song. It's the riff in Mind Swamp, for instance. Right. Okay, we've got this riff now, where are we going? And, and maybe I'll come up with a chord pattern for what we now call the verse. Yeah. And, and then, we all just put our heads together. We come up with better ways to play it or make some changes to it. And that's all we do. We come up with 3 parts per song or whatever it is, 3 or 4 parts per song. We come up with some breaks after we've kind of laid it all out. And, we keep playing it until we get some kind of an arrangement that makes sense. Yeah. And then we press record, and then we do some editing if necessary. We said the engineer, the verse is too long, or let's go in and record some other part here or there, or it needs a key change, and let's figure out an ending and that kind of stuff. And then, and full disclosure, the vocals, the melodies and lyrics are not written in the day. That's done afterwards. What we do in the one day is all the music.
It's all the music. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. We could. That would be insane.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, that would be. We would get like the Nobel freaking Music Peace Prize Award for the century if we could do that.
Well, I still think it's amazing because there's so much detail and nuance in these songs that it again just kind of blows me away. There's another great track that I really love, full of all these contrasts and contours, and that's "Cold Sweat." Starts off with that that big heavy chord that's in the chorus, and then slides into that kind of feels like an old school kind of 60s rock riff that makes me think of like James Bond. I don't know, for some reason. Can you tell me a little bit about how that song makes you feel?
I'm frustrated because it's kind of this aardvark of songs, It's just, or duck-billed platypus, It's got all these parts that I don't think really fit very in a satisfying way for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but interesting isn't enough. I think it needs to flow naturally. And I'm just being honest. I think when you record records like this, you run the risk of not getting it right every time.
Yeah.
And you have to live with that, and that's okay. Because the alternative is do records like we traditionally do, and most people do.
Yeah.
And I already do that with lots of other projects. So, yeah, we usually end up with about a third of the album that we're kind of listening to, going, could have done better.
Right.
That was one of those songs. But of course, every song has its moments. There are things about it that I love, but I think somewhere along the way we probably just kind of missed the mark and ran out of time as far as really getting the right arrangement. But again, once you're committed with a limited amount of time, there's really no going back, and you got to 12 songs in 12 days, and then you're done. So
yeah. So what is your favorite? What is your favorite song off the album?
Shadow Lover, I would say, is probably one of my favorites. Would really have a favorite standout track. But I like the dark stuff, and I like the atmospheric, moody vibe of Shadow Lover.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I know that you, Ray, and Doug are like very busy with your primary bands. But is there any possibility that you'll tour together in support of the new album?
I tell everybody the same answer. Yeah, it's just every interview, fans and stuff, on social media and things like that. And my stock answer is, go ask Ray.
I know.
We're all ready and willing, but the thing is, and I keep having explained this, Korn is just not somebody that we can call up and say, hey guys, you need to take a break so we can go out and do a KXM tour. That's just what it is.
Yeah. I'll try to lobby for your guys' favor to get out there then.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll make a difference. Just call Jonathan and let him know.
Right. So I saw a recent, well, it was back in June actually, interview that you did with Eddie Trunk, and you were indicating that you were interested in doing a final Dokken album. Have you and Don had any serious talks about doing such a thing?
We did about a year and a half ago, and we were Post and I were just starting to work on what became the End Machine record, and for a minute we were thinking it could be a Dokken record if we get Don on board.
Yeah.
So at that point we were talking to him about it, but obviously didn't happen.
Yeah. So, and do you think that the classic Dokken lineup will do any kind of U.S. tours?
Your guess is as good as mine, right? At this moment, nothing like that's happening, but I would like to think so, since the four of us are still relatively healthy and alive and on planet Earth. We it probably makes sense, but I don't know.
All right, well,
got to get all four people to agree to do that. That's tricky.
sounds like I got to make calls to Jonathan and Don now. So
right, you got some work to do. Get out your Rolodex.
That's right. So George, I just got one last question for you, and that is, what is your favorite breakfast food?
It's complicated, but I could give you the rundown if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I just had some, so this is easy for me. Organic steel cut oatmeal with egg whites mixed in with it, with almond milk, blueberries, bananas, protein powder, Ezekiel cereal, which is the cereal made according to a recipe in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
according to the box. Olive oil. And I think that's it. Oh, no, almond yogurt.
Wow, holy cow. So that probably like sets you off for the rest of the day. You probably don't need anything until dinner.
No, I do.
Because that sounds like a ton. That sounds like a really filling breakfast. Awesome.
It's actually just, if I put it on, I put small amounts of everything so it all fits in a kind of large cup.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's filling and everything. Gets you, kind of lasts you through the whole day, and then have lunch, have like a light little snack lunch or something like that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Kind of interesting question, though.
Well,
Actually, that response was, but whatever.
No, it was awesome. I'm always interested for what people like to start their day off with. So anyway.
Yeah, now if I'm on the road, I don't get to do that.
Well, that's true. You'd have to pack a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I pretty much just go to Starbucks or whatever and make do. Anyway.
Well, George, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
No, it was great, Chuck. Thank you. A lot of fun.
Yeah, take care.
All right.